Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dirty Pat Walsh channel on YouTube with me, your host, Dirty Pat Walsh. How's it all going, everybody? So, this is the last pinch of extra long. Just a little baby pinch, a Canadian pinch. These lights are fucking annoying. Well, it seems though my question and answer thing was kind of a success. And Melman Mandela dropped a whole bunch of questions on me after I put that video up. And they're good questions, so I want to answer them. So, the first one being, do I like Tower of Power? Tower of Power, as I know it, were, I believe, a 70s funk band. And, like, real heavy, like, the real funk, you know? And, yes, I can't recall any of their songs right now, but I have heard them many times. Back when I was younger, we used to have, like, these big crazy punk rock parties, and they would always evolve into, like, us spinning records like De La Soul or, Bootsy Collins or Tower of Power, and yeah, I like Tower of Power. Would I rather hang out with Gigi Allen for a day or roadie for Fugazi? I would definitely rather roadie for Fugazi. For those who don't know who those people are, Gigi Allen was a absolutely disgusting shock rock performer. Some of his music, like his very first recordings with his old band, the Jabbers, that's good. That's good punk rock. His music devolved into just awful music, and it kind of was all about the spectacle of the show. Gigi would always like have a crap on stage and eat it and fling it at the crowd and cut himself with beer cans, and it was just ridiculous. And when it comes all down to it, Gigi Allen was a convicted sex offender, so he's a piece of shit in my eyes. I'd love to roadie for Fugazi for a day, as long as I didn't have to lift anything too heavy, because I can't lift anything too heavy. But yeah, I would love to have roadie. I saw Fugazi's very first Canadian concert on a matinee at the Rivoli in Toronto, and it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. So yeah, I'd rather roadie for Fugazi. I have not seen Alice Cooper live, and I don't think I'd want to at this point in his career. I would have loved to seen him when he was putting out songs like "I'm 18" and stuff like that. Back when he was younger. Bands are always better when they're younger. So if I could only choose Michael Bolton or Kid Rock for music for the rest of my life, what would I choose? That's a real toss-up. It's funny because Michael Bolton is a character that it's kind of an inside joke with my Warehouse of Strangers music group. People always, it's an inside joke. I can't really speak of it. Or Kid Rock. No, I've never been a fan of either of these musicians. I know Kid Rock is a lot more like heavy, you know, whatever, I'm Kid Rock and I got a pair of truck nuts on my truck or something like that. And Michael Bolton's like this sexy male crooner, like, you know, big fan of like the 30, 40 plus women really like him, it seems, or some of them do, as far as I'm told. I actually don't know any Michael Bolton fans. But if I could only choose one of them, you know, Michael Bolton's music, I really find no redeeming value in it at all. And Kid Rock's music, the same. But every now and then you need something to kind of pump you up. So what I would do is I would choose Kid Rock, but not really listen to much music anymore. I would make my own music. Do my kids play musical instruments? Yes, they do. My son plays the bass guitar. He's actually pretty good. And he's starting up lessons again this week, I believe. My daughter plays the piano, the violin, the ukulele, and she can play all these instruments well. She's 9. She's a beautiful piano player. But she's not really so into music right now. So it's a shame because she's really talented. And I keep telling her, you know, if you learn violin as a child right now and it comes easy to you, you're going to really appreciate that later on in life. I was like, take it from your dad, you know. And so, I don't know. She's not really interested in music right now, but she is a very talented musician. Can play the ukulele really well. I gave her I used to have a pretty good ukulele. I gave that to her to study on. She plays. She has a little electronic piano that I think her grandmother on Mithra's side gave her, and my ex-wife seems to have a plethora of old violins for some reason. She just gave me one on my birthday, so. So my kids play musical instruments. My son's a crack bass player. I told him one day you're going to be my bass player. So, what's the most rewarding thing about being a father? That's a hard question. Being a father is, you know, when I talk about things I like to do and my favorite things like playing harmonica and, you know, stuff like that. My children are on a completely different level. You know, I would drop anything to be with my children. The most rewarding thing is just watching them grow up, man. You know, and you know, I being divorced, I'm under the stipulations of a parenting agreement. My ex-wife is their primary caregiver, and I have visitation with them. But I have really good relationships with both my children, I feel. I know they love me a lot, and I sure love them, you know. And yeah, the most rewarding thing is it's a new thing every day, you know, every time you see them, you know. It's like watching. It's having a child it's a truly amazing experience. You know, like seeing how they grow up and how their mannerisms are as compared to you and your partner who you made them with. You know, it's just interesting. Being a father is the best thing. Like it puts everything else way far below. Being a father is the best thing that I've ever done, and it's rewarding constantly on every time I see them. So Yeah, I can't really pin down one thing. The worst gig I ever played, well, this past weekend was certainly one of them, and I do mean that. Um, Not that I didn't like what we did, but it was it just wasn't what it should have been. Um, but okay, I'll tell you the story of this gig I played. um, I got booked. This is kind of the tail end of a whole separate story that I made another video about. But I got booked. I got booked to play in Hamilton um, at a place called the Casbah. With it was me and my friend Matthias Calm. We called ourselves the Friday Nights. We both dressed in red suits and red ties, and Matthias always lit his drum kit on fire at the end of the set. It was pretty fun, very rock and roll. So my old friend Brody got us a gig at the Casbah. Now the we were the metal band, in three bands. The first, I'll try to keep this short. It's a long story. The first band was these two brothers with long hair. They kind of looked like Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You know, like surfer dudes. You know, they both came on stage. They had like shoulder length blonde hair. They were twin brothers. Um, I believe they were shirtless, and they both had acoustic guitars. And they got on stage, and most of what they did was like, you know, kind of joke with each other, all these inside jokes. And their music was kind of like Beach Boys kind of shit, and that's all I remember about them at this point, at this moment in time. They were horrendous, but people seemed to like them. Then we played, and it was great. It was like us playing was actually a good show. I don't think I've ever really played a bad show. You know, I have no regrets on that. But the circumstances surrounding a show. Okay, so that happened. Then we played. We were okay. But then the headlining act came out, and I've made a video, but I've told this story before recently. But the headlining act came out after he seemed like this kind of weird dude, and he came up to me and he asked if I could sing Alice's Restaurant for him or with him. And I said, no, I don't. I can't. I don't know the words. I don't listen to the song. Don't know anything about it, bud. So sorry, no, I can't. And so he got up on stage and he had his electric guitar and he just kind of sat there. And it was like watching somebody sit on their bed practicing how to play guitar. It was like, you know, he played like a couple like Led Zeppelin riffs, you know, just started noodling around. And this went on for 20 minutes at least, watching this guy practice guitar, basically. Then he put his guitar down and he pulled out a snare drum and a couple of brushes. And then he invited me up on stage to sing Alice's Restaurant with him after I'd said no. So I had to say no again, but from my seat in the audience. So he starts into Alice's Restaurant, and everybody knows the first line. You know, you can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. But that's the only line he knew. So he was like just playing the snare drum with brushes, you know. And so he started in Alice's Restaurant, realized he didn't know any of the words, just played the snare drum part for about 20 minutes, and that was his show. And now the funny thing is he was the headliner, and the audience seemed to go crazy for him. So I don't know if he's some secret genius. I don't know if it was all his friends and family, but it was it was really the most horrendous act well, okay, we'll get to that later. It was the most horrendous act I've ever seen where I've been on the bill. So, the worst gig I've ever seen, I always, okay, there used to be this, I don't know if there still is, but there was this hippie jam band in Toronto called Caution Jam, which is a really dumb name. They were a bunch of dickweeds. And when I had my old band, the Jackson Sanatorium, we used to go down to Grossman's in Toronto, which is like a famous blues bar in Toronto. And I loved going to Grossman's. It was awesome. So it was a total dive, you know. And the Jackson Sanatorium would play the open mic night, and half the people who worked there and hung out there absolutely loved us, and the other half absolutely hated us, you know, because there's a lot of snobbery in the blues world. But anyhow, we were at Grossman's one night, and I don't know if we were playing an open mic or not, but I think we were just hanging out and drinking. But Caution Jam was playing, and for some reason that always sticks out in my head as the worst gig I've ever seen was this hippie jam band, which is what I'm not into that at all. Called Caution Jam in Toronto in around 1998. The Sex Pistols or the Stooges? Who do I like better? The Stooges. The Stooges. Absolutely the Stooges. I love the Sex Pistols. I absolutely fucking love the Sex Pistols. But the Stooges came out, you know, like the Stooges were making their records in like the late 60s, 1968 to 1970, I think. And predated all that British punk rock stuff. You know, everybody thinks punk rock started in England, and no fucking way. It started in America. You know, and like Iggy wasn't even a punk rock band. The very first time I heard Iggy Pop, I think I was 13 years old, maybe 14, something like that. I was in grade 9 anyway, and I heard Raw Power for the first time, and I was blown. I was just like frozen listening to it. I thought, this is the most perfect music I've ever heard in my life. You know, it was a much more profound experience than when I heard the Nevermind the Bollocks album. So, even though that's one of my favorite albums ever, so that says a lot about how much I like the Stooges. I like the Stooges a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. Have I ever been to England? And if so, where? Yes, I have. I've been to London. I've been to Warwickshire. I think that's how you pronounce it. I had a gig out in Warwickshire. I did a small European solo tour back around 2005 or 6. My ex-wife booked me a small European tour and took me to Europe. So that was pretty kind of her. And one of the dates I played was in Warwickshire, England, and we stayed with some friends, and it was, I don't know, it was kind of weird. I can say that now, you know. These are definitely my ex-wife's friends, and I'm divorced from my wife now. So, yeah, kind of an awkward time, but it was fun playing. I only got, my billing was writing on I played a pub, just some pub. I don't remember the name of it. The King's Arms or something like that. And I was just listed as Pat on the chalkboard out in front. So that was cool. Everybody just called me Pat, and they thought I was American at first. And they really liked how, like they're in England, they're in like rural or whatever, like not not London, England. Warwickshire's kind of the equivalent of like Oshawa here. It's just a little city somewhere. And they got to see like a real North American blues singer. That's what they took away from it. So I was happy to provide that. And that was actually the best gig on my tour. So yeah. So that's where I've been in England. I loved London. I We were there for a few days. I hung out in Hyde Park. That was amazing. Went to a snuff shop, an actual real snuff shop. Bought some snuff. Got the weirdest snuff I had ever had. It was called English Rose, and it smelled like your grandmother's linen closet. Like it was this weird old dusty rose kind of scent, like it said on the cover, English Rose. Yeah, I don't know. The most profound things about going to England for me were, I didn't have money to go shopping or anything like that. Really, I got a couple cans of snuff at the snuff shop. But I got to eat at a real British chippy, which was amazing. One of the best things I've ever eaten was fish and chips from a real British chip shop. Just amazing. So yeah, I like England. I'd go back there anytime. I like it a lot. Is poutine all it's cracked up to be? It can be, yeah, if it's made right. Most people don't make it right. You need cheese curds. I don't know if people make those in America. I don't know if that's just a Canadian thing. But if you want to imitate making cheese or making poutine, go get some. Best thing to do would make and deep fry some fresh French fries from cut up a potato and deep fry it like French fries. If you don't know how to do that, you gotta fry it first at a lower temperature, and then when you cook them again, you have to fry them at a higher temperature until they float in the oil. And yeah, I've cooked a lot of French fries in my life. And you put some cheese curds on top. And now, if you can't access cheese curds, the best substitute is like some really good mozzarella cheese, like the bocconcini or something like that, with a little wee fresh balls of cheese, and cut those up and put them on the French fries, and then you can buy a can of Dinty Moore gravy or whatever the brand is. You can make gravy from scratch. It's best if you make gravy from scratch. If you know, I'm not going to go into how to do that right now, but yeah, and you just pour a gravy over the French fries and cheese, and it's really delicious. It's kind of messy. It's something that I personally I only eat every handful of years, because it's kind of it's like it's a favorite food when you're drunk and you come out of the bar and you're with your buddies and you want to go get something to eat. So you go get a big greasy poutine down at the Whistle Stop Cafe here in Peterborough. If it's made right, yes, poutine is all it's cracked up to be. If it's made lousily, then, if that's a word, if someone makes a lousy version of it, it's going to be a lousy version of it. My favorite movie. I I have a I don't watch a lot of movies these days, but my favorite horror movie of all time is the original John Carpenter's Halloween. But I think as an overall movie, my favorite movie, I think it would have to be Raging Bull. It's about a boxer. That's all I'm going to say. It's a brilliantly made movie. Why does the F chord on the guitar have to be so hard? I play the campfire version of it, and it's really not hard at all. But I know that, I don't know, I play slide guitar. It's easier that way. So there you go. Yeah, yeah. Melvin Mandela asked me all those questions, and Kodiak Dipper asked about my parents, if they're alive, if I have a good relationship with them. I was adopted as a child. My adopted mother, yes, she's still alive. She lives with my sister. It's my sister's birthday today, actually. And yeah, I have a pretty good relationship with my mom. It's been a turbulent one over the years, but we get along. We get along quite well. I don't see them very often. My father died a little over 9 years ago. I helped. I was one of the hands that lowered him into the grave. So I didn't get along with my father at all until about the last 5 years of his life, and then we became quite close, and then he died. But that's okay. I'm in a good place with that. Now, I was born under very strange circumstances. I was born in September and adopted in November, on Grey Cup weekend. I think that's what it's called, some football thing. The woman who gave birth to me was 13 years old when she gave birth to me. And my father was an American military person. I don't know. That's information I'm not even supposed to know. But my mom took a peek at the papers, and yeah. So my birth mother was only 13 when she gave birth to me, which I find quite a terrifying prospect, and I think about her a great deal, and especially around my birthday. Hopefully she's still alive. I don't know. I've tried to find her, but to no avail. And my father probably doesn't even know that I exist. My birth father, that is. So yeah, a weird parental thing with me. But when it comes down to it, yeah, me and my mom, we get along cool. So yeah. And Kodiak Dipper asked me that about my parents. So all right, there you go. Part 2 of question and answer. This one's like fucking half an hour long. Holy shit. Okay. Thanks for all the questions, Melman and Kodiak Dipper. And I will see you soon in another video. I got a new amp set up. I'm pretty excited to blow some harp through it. This Bone Daddy Shure 57, Little Red Screamer 57 sounds amazing through it. So I'm pretty stoked about that. But all right, be well, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day, rest of the evening, it is. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.